There is a disproportionate number of Jews involved in all levels of the mass media, from someone like Michael Grade and Jeremy Isaacs down to the producer of this programme.
Seem to have found 19 Jews in the whole of the organisation. And it goes right way down to the head of local programmes of BBC North.
Yes, but who are... Well, those, obviously, there's a very limited amount of research ability.
Hi buddy, Michael here. Today I want to explain the problem with British nationalism. Let's go. Okay, so I found a tweet that perfectly sums up the problem with British nationalism, and I'm going to read it as follows. And it goes, having studied it up close, the problem with British nationalism is not the ethno-nationalism aspect. Most people are probably persuadable that civic nationalism is a bankrupt idea. I was. And would agree that remigration is necessary and urgent. The problem is that for the majority of nationalists, if my experience is anything to go by, anti-Semitism is at the core of their entire worldview, tainting everything they think about anything, even to the extent of preferring despotic, murderous Islamist regimes. For me, it's not something that can be ignored, and it cannot be mitigated with careful PR. I've come to learn that it is a central pillar of their thinking, coupled with all the usual batshit conspiracy theories, and it makes them manifestly shitty people you'd cross the street to avoid. However well they conceal it, it's still there. This primarily is why it will remain electorally insignificant. It's a shame, as ever. The problem isn't the ism, it's the ists. End of tweet. And as I said, I completely agree with the sentiments of that tweet. And it's something recently, like, I obviously, as an Englishman, I want the best for my country. I believe that it should be majority white English people, naturally, and that we do need remigration and to get a lot of illegals out. However, I have no ill will, no hatred towards any foreign people. I wish everybody well. It's just that what's happening is not a sensible condition for happiness in our world and in our country. And I've noticed a lot of these hardcore ethno-nationalists, even some ethnos are obviously not too bad, but the hardcore ones, the ones on X and some you see on YouTube, they are just hardcore. And they just seem like, if I'm honest, scumbag people. And they will criticize people like Ben Habib. Ben Habib is 50% English in terms of Ben Habib's father is from Pakistan. His mother is a white, blonde hair, blue-eyed English lady. And he grew up when he was young in Pakistan, moved to England when he was in his teens, from what I understand. But he was explaining in an interview how he feels completely English and British despite being half from Pakistan. And his loyalties lie with England because he always had great reverence for England in Pakistan, and he embraces his English side. And you can tell he's a classy gentleman. He's very smart, very wise. And I personally believe someone like him would be a good prime minister for our country. But you get these hardcore ethnos in the comments of, he did an interview with Ed Dutton, and they're saying, oh, he's not even English. And I just think it's uncalled for, and there's too much Puritanism. And they're always arguing about, these people need to go because they're only 50% English. And then it's like, what are we going to do? DNA tests and find out, if anybody's less than 95% English, they've got to go. And as I always say, yes, race and tribe is important, but you can't neglect the spiritual aspect as well. And that all of these people who are hardcore nationalists, they're rooted so much in the physical world, they have no spiritual wisdom, no grace, no honor. And these are not the people who are going to lead us to a glorious country. They think that if we make England all white English again, everything is going to be perfect, when it's not going to solve all our problems if it doesn't have any spiritual wisdom and grace of God behind it. And that's something Julius Evola has touched on. He said even nationalism itself is shallow. If your nationalism is based purely on race and you forget the spiritual side, then nothing good will come from it. And that's why I believe that Hitler failed, because he believed they could attain purity purely through race, when what real purity is through the spirit. And that when I look at, as I said previously, when I look at all of these hardcore nationalists and these ones who going on about Ben Habib he's not English and all this stuff, a lot of them they do not seem like nice people. They seem pretty scumbaggy, not the sort of people I'd want to hang around with in real life. And there was one guy, who does YouTube videos, and he's moaning about all the migration in the UK. Okay, fair enough. And he left the UK to go to another country, and he was at the airport, and he just spent his whole time like insulting all the foreign people in the airport. And it just seemed to lack any grace, and even insulting the good foreigners. Like there was some like Oriental Asians, and he was attacking them. And it's like, well, they are some of the best migrants you can get. And it just seemed that their movement, or that type of movement, is based on two things. Number one, the god of their religion is to be hating the Jews. Everything's the Jews, and they're obsessed with the Jewish problem. And also, they're obsessed with hating foreign people. Whereas what we need is a movement based on spiritual wisdom and pride of our own people, and a love of our own people, rather than hatred of others. You know, it's the problem I have with Islam. At least with Christianity, it's generally based on love, or it is based on love because it follows the teachings of Christ. But Islam is based on you're a Muslim and then hate everybody else. That's why I do not like Islam. And any movement based on hate is not of God, and it is destined to fail. And when I try to have conversations with these people, they're just irrational. Like everything goes back to the Jews. The borders are open because the Jews. This because the Jews. That because the Jews. And it's like, God, people are irrational. It's no different than you see a lot of the black activists. Everything is the white man's fault. No matter what happens, they take no personal responsibility. They just blame the white man for everything. And that's the problem in our country. You know, a lot of the reason our borders are open is not because the Jews are flooding our country with migrants. A lot of it is because we have a Ponzi financial scheme and a Ponzi pension scheme, and that we need the numbers up so we can keep the Ponzi going. So that when British people retire, they can get pensions. So we're importing a load of foreign workers. So a better solution would be if they spent their time figuring out a new system that doesn't rely on being a Ponzi scheme, and try and find positive solutions rather than spending all your time moaning about the problems. Try and come up with solutions and work towards the solutions rather than just complaining all the time. And that's why I set up the Guardians of the United Kingdom, to be a place where sensible, wise people can come up with solutions rather than listening to these far left or far right morons that we generally have the loudest voice. But the sensible people need to speak up. And my perfect situation would be, yes, Britain should we should maintain massive percentage of homogenous white English people, but we'll also welcome good migrants into the country in sensible numbers. And that instead of using all taxpayers' money to set up illegal foreign people in hotels and give them all benefits, we should basically use that money to promote English families and English couples who get married, who want to have children. Will give them more benefits. That's where all the tax money should be used. It should be used for promoting British families rather than foreign immigrants. And for them to have children, we'd rather pay for our own children rather than foreigners to come in and do all the work. Okay, so that's the point of my video today, just to explain my problem with British nationalists, in that there is a far extreme group who are obsessed with the Jews, and that they're bad for the nationalist movement. Okay, so if you like what I'm talking about and you want to join a sensible movement, subscribe to this channel. We're just getting started. As time goes on, I'll be providing more information. If you like the video, like it, comment below if you have any comments on the state of British nationalism. And God bless everybody. Goodbye.